Well, I've been asked a lot of questions about our upcoming season with all the players we lost position player-wise. And if I had a choice between losing position players who are key and valuable members of our team or losing a lot of pitching, I'll choose losing position players any day of the week. Pitching and defense win championships. And so I'm really excited about the amount of pitching we have coming back. We lost one guy, Luke Heimlich, who had significant innings, and everybody else who had 10 or more innings is back this year. So I'm really excited about our pitching staff, and I'm really happy the way we've been playing defense so far.
Coach, you mentioned losing Luke, and last year, one thing Coach Casey talked a lot about was not having a third or a fourth guy kind of toward the bottom of the rotation there, where he knew we had Bryce and Luke up at the top. Do you think you have depth in this rotation that a third or fourth guy is available under Kevin and under Bryce?
Absolutely. We have we have two freshmen so far we have a total of 4 freshmen that came in, but we have 2 specifically that have thrown really well so far. Jacob Fennings, who's from Post Falls, Idaho, has done a great job for us. And Joey Munt, and by the way, Joey's brother is playing in the Super Bowl this week, and he plays for the Los Angeles Rams, and or in 2 weeks, I guess. Anyhow, they've both thrown really well for us, and then we have everybody else back.
You head into Pat a lineup. Do you have one envisioned, or do you see that kind of developing? You know, I mean, obviously a couple of guys in there, but do you have kind of a skeleton of what you see, or is there some alterations that come during the next couple of weeks?
Well, we haven't started our team practice yet. We're in individuals right now until Friday's our first day that we can start team practice, and we will start that first day with scrimmaging. So as we get into scrimmages, we'll find out more in terms of, we have an idea of what our lineup's going to be. And I think just about every coach meeting we've had in the last 2 weeks, we've talked about who's going to fit where and when in the lineup. But specifically, I can't tell you that until we start scrimmaging.
What's been the big difference for you this offseason, being in this new role and no Coach Casey in that head coaching role?
The biggest difference for me, I was a head coach for 26 years before I became an assistant. And the thing I did forget about that I got reminded of right away is the amount of meetings I have to go to. It's unbelievable. I think we have meetings to have meetings. So anyhow, that's probably been the biggest difference, the amount of meetings I've had to go to.
What's the biggest thing you learned coaching under Coach Casey that you're going to bring to the team this season?
I think, honestly, Case and I, when I took this job, and I've known Pat for a long time, all the way back to when I was a head coach at Westland High School. And then Pat was the head coach at George Fox. There was one guy in between us, and I took the job at George Fox. So I had a really clear picture of what Pat was about. And when we met, when I took the job initially, and honestly, I really wasn't that interested in being an assistant coach. But when we met, we spent over an hour talking about building men of character and being in the man-building business. And I mean, philosophically, we're both very similar. That's one of the reasons why I think we work so well together. I also think that one thing I learned from Pat, and that was really big with me to start with, but it just confirmed, is just how loyal of a man he was. That if you were loyal to him, he was extremely loyal to you. And the other thing that you guys don't know is his wife's name is Susan Kay. My wife's name is Susan Kay. We're both Pats, and both of our wives grew up in the country. So we have a lot of similarities. When we both have Irish names, even though I'm not Irish.
What's the communication been like between you and Case in the off-season here? I mean, how have stepping back into this role, how have you kind of talked with him about things? What are some things that he's kind of told you? And he's still in this kind of advisory role within the school. Does it feel like he has kind of left, or is he still? I know it's tough for him to kind of get away from the game like that.
No, I mean, he came in the office yesterday and we talked. I mean, like I said, we're really good friends, and he's welcome to come to the office anytime. And he, unless he's out on the road doing something, he's been in our office probably every week just to come in and talk. I mean, we're really good friends, so I really appreciate him coming in. And I've asked him for some advice on specific things. You're always going to have issues that aren't baseball related. I mean, honestly, I think coaches probably spend about 85% of their time on things that have nothing to do with baseball, whether it's administrative stuff or raising money or whatever it is. and you're going to have issues that come up. And so I have asked for advice. I called him when he was in Hawaii, and I hated doing that last week, but we had an issue, and I needed advice from him on how he thought I should handle it.
You guys obviously lost a lot of leadership as well as talent off last year's team. So who are some of the guys you think are going to kind of step in and fill in for that, the Nick Madrigal type voice that you guys aren't going to have this year?
That's a great question. I think we have great leadership on this team this year. Adley Rutschman, Zach Taylor, Bryce Femmel were named our team captains. We voted for captains right before dead week, right before they went into the finals in the fall. I wanted to wait until the end of fall before they voted. And we had 37 guys vote. And those guys, the least amount those three got, one guy got 34. I was shocked. And I've been doing this is my 41st year. And I can tell you, I've been through a lot of guys voting for captains. I've never seen three guys get that many votes before. So it was very clear. The other thing is I have what's called an inner circle, where I have 5 players in it, including those 3. And I meet with those guys almost every week just to discuss how things are going. And I firmly believe that players are the foundation of your program. It's kind of like I refer them to being a soldier. They're the boots on the ground. And leadership starts from the ground up. And so I'm a big believer in leadership. And my business background, I've read a ton of leadership books. So that's going really well.
Who are the other 2 members of the inner circle?
Preston Jones is one. Andy Armstrong's the other one.
And then over the years, you guys have had a lot of junior and senior arms kind of really step up and have breakthrough performances. Do you think Grant Gambrell maybe has what it takes to do that this year?
I 100% agree with you. I think Grant's really matured. And if he stays healthy, and I hope he stays healthy, I think he's going to be a key and integral part of our team this year.
Coach, you look at the championship defense, from winning the title last year, coming in high rankings, high expectations yet again. How do you keep the pressure off these guys of not needing to feel like there is a title that needs to be defended, or to avoid the so-called championship hangover, and kind of keep them just sort of solely focused on what's in front of them?
Well, look, I'm going to preface that a little bit. First of all, it's my job to love our guys, and it's our guys' job to love each other. And we do a lot of team building stuff. And pressure to me is being in Afghanistan and having bullets fly over your head. That's pressure. I mean, I think a lot of pressure that's created is way overdone in college athletics. There's a lot of things in life that are more important than college athletics. So I think keeping things in perspective, but the team building stuff and the things we're doing, I think are going to really help.
You mentioned a long run at George Fox, a long time as assistant here. What's it like for you now? I mean, the title is interim coach. You're bringing a national championship team that's a top 5. There are people who look at your predecessors. Maybe he's taking a year off and coming back. Where's kind of your mindset going this year? It must be different than the years in the past where you kind of were at a job where you had been at it for a while and kind of knew the role.
Actually, it's not any different. I've been teaching and coaching for 40 years prior to here, and I've signed 40 one-year contracts. And if they don't want me, they can fire me. I mean, I told Case when I came here, he asked me a couple years ago if I wanted a multi-year contract, and I said, no, I don't. I want to go year to year, and the reason why is because if I'm doing a really good job, I have a chance of making more money. So here's the deal. I think it's really important that people understand all that matters is right now. Tomorrow has enough problems of its own. I'm going to live each day one day at a time.
Coach Adley, obviously, he's a national name now in college baseball. What can he do this year, though? What do you want to see out of him this year to up his game to another level?
Based on what he did last year, that was pretty significant. He ended up hitting 408. He was, I don't know if you guys are aware, but he just received the Richard Dick Case Award for the USA baseball. I hope I can say that, Hank. It's been on Twitter, I'm sure. Everything gets put on Twitter these days. USA Baseball Player of the Year for all levels of USA Baseball. So what do I expect out of Adley? I expect him to be a great leader. I expect Adley to be selfless and to make the team, put the team ahead of his own personal self-gain. And I think he's going to do that. He's a great young man. I've known Adley since he was 5 years old. His dad coached with me at George Fox. He was my catching coach, and I think he's going to do a great job.
Coach, the practices and how they're structured, will they pretty much look the same? Do you have a different way you're going to tweak practices at all that begin Friday, or will it look pretty much the same as it has these last 12 years or so?
Well, sometimes Case and I did the practice plans together, but I would say over half the time I did the practices myself. So, and he trusted me with that. They're pretty much the same. I mean, we've added a few tweaks here and there that our coaching staff and I have collaborated together to come up with some new ideas in terms of how to do different types of drills and stuff like that. But they're pretty much the same.
The competition, how many spots right now? I mean, if you had to play a game tomorrow and make a lineup, do you feel pretty good about what you know, or do you feel like there's a lot of spots that people are going to be competing for at the position spots and for the lineup?
I think there's going to be a lot of spots that people are going to be competing for. We have a lot of players that bring different areas of talent, whether it be speed, more power, whatever it is. The key is with each guy is getting him to understand what his role is going to be offensively. Defensively, we're fine there, but understanding their offensive role and not trying to be somebody they're not, and then just playing to those strengths to help us as a team. But we have probably 7 of our spots right now that are wide open.
Is that inner circle thing, is that something you did initiate this year that as the head coach with this group?
Yeah, it's something that I always had as a head coach. When I was at George Fox, I always had 2 or 3 guys. I just increased it to 5 this year because of the guys that I picked that I wanted to be leaders on the team, but it's something I've always done.
And what about pitching? Might roles change of guys who've been bullpen guys? Might we see 1 or 2 of those guys compete to start? Are those things you're just going to look at through practice, or do you have an idea about wanting to maybe flip a guy or 2?
That's a great question. I think pitchers are no different than position players. All the position players want to start. All of our pitchers, including guys that are relievers, want to start too. So I've talked to a couple of our guys who would like to have an opportunity to be starters for us on our staff. And I just told them, I said, the bottom line is we're going to do what's best for our program. And that'll develop as we start scrimmaging here before we go into the season. And I'm sure it's going to develop as we go through the first part of our season, too, in terms of defining the roles of our pitching staff. And you know as well as I do, every year you have a surprise or two where guys who are relievers to start with end up being starters, guys that were starters end up being relievers. I firmly believe you win a baseball game in the last 3 innings. That's the most critical part of a baseball game. So we're going to make sure the back end of our bullpen is really solid.
Where are you guys at health-wise entering practice? Is anyone going to be out early? Anyone kind of going to be sidelined?
We have some guys with little tweaks and stuff like that, but nobody's serious. We have 1 young man that's a freshman, Andrew Walling, that we're still bringing along, that he had Tommy John surgery at the beginning of his senior year, who's going to be, he has a really good arm. I mean, he was 91-94 the summer of his junior year before he ended up having, it's sad, he got hurt pitching here at Goss Stadium. He's about his 4th inning thrown against a Utah team that was the #1 rated amateur summer team in the country, and was shutting him out and hurt his arm. But that's the only guy that we have that and then Zach Clayton tore his labrum last summer playing in Summer League, the Northwoods League, and so he's recovering from that. But he should be good to go, I'm going to say, by the end of March.